He used to whisper "I love you" like a secret between us. But that night, his whispers had someone else's name on them. The clock read 2:14 a.m. The house was still. Except for him. His voice low. Calculated. Like he didn't want the walls to hear. But walls listen. So do wives who've learned to sleep with one ear open. I wasn't supposed to be awake. He thought I was upstairs, asleep in the bed we picked out together. He didn't know I was sitting at the top of the stairs, wrapped in a blanket, watching the life I built crack. "It's almost done," he said into the phone. She has no clue. Within a month, her accounts will be cleared. My breath caught. He wasn't talking about business. He was talking about me. His tone was so casual. As if he were discussing dinner plans. Not dismantling his wife's life. Not draining the fortune we spent 10 years building. Together. Or so I thought. I gripped the banister. Cold wood under my fingers. Steadying. Because in that moment, the floor felt unreliable. He mentioned names. Fake companies. Dummy accounts. It was all set. The lawyer. The forger. The exit plan. And the cherry on top? She'll never see it coming. She trusts me too much. Funny. I did. I trusted him with my heart. My home. My future. And here he was, selling them all for a slice of freedom I never denied him. As he ended the call, he sighed. Not with guilt. With satisfaction. He had no idea his perfect betrayal had an audience. I stayed on the stairs long after he went to bed. Not crying. Not raging. Just processing. Because betrayal feels less like a slap and more like a slow, suffocating weight. A realization that the person you loved has already let go. By dawn I knew. This wasn't going to be a confrontation. Not yet. This wasn't the time for screaming matches, for broken dishes, for dramatic ultimatums. This was the time for precision. For strategy. For war. The quiet kind. The kind you don't announce. As the sun rose, he greeted me with a kiss. The same lips that spoke my downfall hours earlier. "Sleep well, babe," I smiled. Because masks aren't exclusive to traitors. I spent that day not as his wife, but as his shadow. Watching. Noting. Filing away every smirk, every evasion, every half-lie dressed as routine. He thought I was distracted. Busy with charities. With garden parties. With the image of a woman content to exist in his orbit. But I was never content. I was calculating. The only difference was, I didn't need to announce it. By evening, I called Anna. My friend. My lawyer. The only person I trusted more than myself. Her voice was sharp. Focused. "It's time, isn't it?" I didn't need to explain. She knew. Within hours, plans were in motion. My assets. My accounts. Every thread of my financial life was untangled from his grasp. Quietly. Legally. Impeccably. He thought he was stealing. He didn't realize I was clearing the table. As he slept beside me that night, oblivious, I watched him. And I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. Because nothing exposes a person faster than thinking they've won. He was playing a game on a board I designed. He was moving pawns in a match where I was already 3 moves from checkmate. And he'd never see it coming. The next morning, he handed me coffee. Kissed my cheek. "Big things coming, babe. Just trust me." Oh, I would. I'd trust him to walk himself straight into the trap. Because the thing about betrayal is that it teaches you to be patient. And patience is lethal when wielded by the woman they thought was asleep. He whispered his betrayal thinking I was dreaming. But I've never been more awake. Because the quietest moments are often the loudest warnings. He thought I was asleep. But I had already woken up from the illusion of us. The morning after I heard him plotting, he greeted me with the same routine. A kiss on the cheek. Coffee. Light on sugar. His smile. Perfectly rehearsed. As if the night before he hadn't planned to erase me. The man was an actor. Too bad he didn't realize I'd become a director. I played my part too. Asked about his day. Nodded in all the right places. Laughed at jokes that used to make me feel loved. Now they just sounded cheap. But patience. Patience is a sharp weapon. After he left for work, I made my real call. Anna. My best friend. My lawyer. The woman who once told me, men like him never leave empty-handed. But that doesn't mean you have to let them take what's yours. She'd been waiting for this day longer than I had. Tell me everything. Her tone wasn't concerned. It was clinical. Surgical. Because when you're up against a man who mistakes his wife for a fool, you need precision. I told her what I'd heard. The accounts. The false names. The forged documents. She listened. Took notes. Never once interrupted with shock. Because she knew men like Ethan. They smile in public, betray in private, and believe in their own brilliance far more than reality allows. First step, Anna said, lock down your assets. Quietly. We'll move everything out of his reach. By noon, legal orders were drafted. My personal accounts. The family trust. Even the holding companies he thought were vulnerable. Everything was quietly fortified. He didn't notice a thing. He came home that night with his usual charm. Talked about expansion plans. Tossed around words like consolidation, streamlining, big words to disguise small-minded greed. He slid documents across the table. Legal papers. Joint asset management proposals. Smiling as if he were doing me a favor. I smiled back. The mask never slipped. What he didn't know was that Anna and I had already drafted countermeasures. The moment he tried to access my accounts, he'd find locks. Stronger than any forged signature. The next few days were a quiet war. He thought he was playing offense. But I was playing defense so well he didn't realize he was losing ground with every move. I hired a forensic accountant. Someone Anna trusted. Within 48 hours, we had traced his shell companies. His offshore attempts. Sloppy. Amateurish. Arrogance makes people careless. Every time he kissed me goodbye, I documented it. Not as a wife. As evidence. Because when the time came, he wouldn't be able to say, I didn't mean to. It would all be in writing. His lies. His theft. His betrayal. One evening, he brought me flowers. Lavender hydrangeas. My favorite. The same ones he used to bring when we were just Ethan and Laura. The gesture should have melted me. But all I saw was a man trying to soften me while sharpening his knife behind his back. You're quiet lately, he said, searching my face. I smiled. Soft. Unbothered. Because a woman preparing her defense doesn't need to scream. She just needs to watch. He thought he had time. He thought I was asleep. But I was documenting every move. Preparing every counterstrike. This wasn't emotional anymore. This was chess. And he never realized I'd been the grandmaster all along. Anna's voice echoed in my mind. You don't need to destroy him. You just need to let him destroy himself. And that's exactly what I was doing. With every fake signature he penned, with every transfer he authorized, he was tightening the noose. Soon, he'd present me with his final move. His so-called exit strategy. The moment he thought he'd win. And that would be the exact moment he'd realize the board was mine. Because I wasn't asleep. I was awake. Wide awake. And the wife he thought was a pawn was quietly, methodically, preparing to checkmate. He thought deception required brilliance. But all it takes is underestimating the woman who's already learned to play in silence. He laid out the papers like victory was inevitable. And I let him. The dining table was his chosen battleground. Polished wood. Candlelight. The illusion of romance. He thought ambience could soften betrayal. As if betrayal could be dressed up in fine linen and passed off as business. He smiled. That smug, rehearsed smile. Babe, this is just a formality. A little paperwork to consolidate assets. make things smoother, consolidate. Such a convenient word for steal. He slid the folder toward me. Gold lettering. My name embossed. Professional. Impressive. Fake. Like him. I opened it slowly. Pages of legal jargon. Crafted to confuse. To overwhelm. Clauses buried under friendly phrasing. But I had read every line before he did. Anna made sure of that. Take your time, he said, leaning back, watching me. Predator energy. But what he didn't realize was that this was his cage. And he had already locked himself in. The documents were a masterpiece of deception. On paper, it looked like we were protecting our assets. In reality, it was designed to funnel everything into his sole control. Liquidation clauses. Emergency authorizations. He thought I wouldn't notice. He thought love made me blind. I looked up, met his gaze. This is smart, I said, keeping my tone soft. His chest puffed. Because men like him mistake agreement for victory. He kept talking. Explaining things I already knew. Mansplaining betrayal with the confidence of a man who thinks he's already won. I nodded. Smiled. Waited. When he reached for his pen, I stopped him. Gently. Deliberately. Before we sign, shouldn't we toast to new beginnings? His grin widened. Of course. I retrieved a bottle. Not wine. Truth. Because this wasn't a celebration. It was an unveiling. We raised our glasses. His eyes gleamed. He thought this was his coronation. But I knew it was his sentencing. As we clinked glasses, I said it. Soft. Measured. By the way, I've already moved everything. His glass paused mid-air. What? I let the silence stretch. The accounts. The assets. The companies you thought were vulnerable. They're secured. In my name. Legally untouchable. His smile faltered. Laura, this isn't funny. I wasn't laughing. I slid a different folder toward him. The real one. Signed. Sealed. Backed by every legal fortress Anna and I had built. He flipped through it. Panic replacing arrogance with every page. You can't do this. I tilted my head. I already did. He tried to recover. Blustered about misunderstandings. Accused me of mistrust. The same man who plotted my financial murder now demanding loyalty. Ironic. Ethan, you taught me something valuable. He blinked. You taught me that protecting yourself isn't betrayal. It's survival. The color drained from his face. Because for the first time, he realized he wasn't the smartest person in the room. If you walk away now, I said, you get nothing. No assets. No settlements. But no charges either. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Because bluffing only works when the other side has something to lose. And I had nothing to fear. He stood abruptly. The chair screeched. An undignified sound for an undignified exit. He didn't slam the door. He didn't shout. Because when a man realizes he's trapped, the bravado dies quietly. I sat alone at that table for a long time after. Not gloating. Not celebrating. Just breathing. Because survival isn't loud. It's the quiet reclaiming of what was always yours. He walked into the trap thinking it was a throne. But power built on betrayal never lasts. Because the woman you underestimated was always playing the long game. He thought character assassination would break me. He underestimated the quiet strength of a woman done playing nice. Ethan was cornered. So, he did what cowards do best. He lied louder. It started with whispers. Carefully placed rumors about me. How I'd mishandled funds. How I was emotionally unstable. Unfit to manage an empire. It spread through business circles like wildfire. Because scandal sells better than truth. And Ethan knew he couldn't destroy me legally. So he went for the next best thing. Reputation. My phone buzzed constantly. Reporters fishing for statements. Anonymous sources, claiming I'd sabotaged my own company. Online articles twisting facts into clickbait. To the uninformed, it looked messy. To those who knew me, it looked desperate. Anna called me that morning. He's digging his own grave. All we have to do is make sure he keeps the shovel. I smiled. Because Anna understood the art of patience. But we didn't stay still. For every lie he spread, we had a truth ready. Documents. Forensic audits. Testimonies. Facts have a quiet power. And we wielded them surgically. I filed defamation suits. Not loudly. Strategically. Targeted. Precise. For every slanderous headline, there was a cease and desist. For every whisper, a legal echo. The media loves drama. But it loves receipts more. And soon, the narrative shifted. From scandal to scrutiny. The spotlight turned to Ethan. His shell companies. His forgery. His attempt to siphon assets from the very woman who built the empire. Then came Ilya Mero. Ethan's supposed business partner. The professional forger he'd hired to doctor documents. He promised her a cut. Loyalty in exchange for silence. But loyalty bought with borrowed money is fragile. When Ethan's house of cards shook, Ilya flipped. Hard. Her testimony was a masterpiece. Emails. Voice recordings. Even screenshots of Ethan bragging about taking Laura for everything she's worth. The media devoured it. Ethan's plan had officially imploded. His lies now amplified his downfall. Every attempt to smear me only highlighted how meticulously he had orchestrated the betrayal. The best part? I never raised my voice. Never stooped to his theatrics. Because when you're standing on solid ground, you don't flinch at storms. The business world watched as Sterling continued to thrive. Partnerships blossomed. Investors stood firm. Because competence outshines scandal. And competence was something Ethan never had. He tried one last move. A public apology. Scripted. Insincere. Framing himself as a misguided husband who lost his way. He tried to paint me as vindictive. The woman who wouldn't forgive. But forgiveness isn't owed to thieves. And public sympathy doesn't erase private betrayal. The audience wasn't buying it. Not this time. Every time he opened his mouth, his own words tightened the rope. Anna and I watched it unfold. Not with glee. With satisfaction. Because this wasn't revenge. This was accountability. In private, Ethan reached out. Emails. Messages. All ignored. Because closure isn't something you beg for after you've set fire to the bridge. His lies had been loud. But my counterstrike had been relentless. And in the end, truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be documented. One by one, his allies vanished. Business deals withdrawn. Endorsements cancelled. Even his personal accounts frozen pending investigation. He was isolated. Not by me. By his own actions. When the dust settled, he had nothing left to smear. Because when you strip away the noise, only truth remains. And the truth was simple. I didn't destroy him. He did that himself. I just refused to protect him from the consequences. He thought lies could rewrite my story. But truth, quiet and unyielding, always writes the final chapter. No shouting required. He wore his arrogance like armor. But it shattered with every page of evidence. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not in temperature. In tone. Sterile. Clinical. Perfect for dismantling illusions. Ethan sat across from me. Immaculate suit. Perfect hair. As if presentation could protect him. He avoided my gaze. Because deep down he knew. This wasn't a trial to decide if he'd fall. It was to measure how far. His lawyer started strong. Spinning tales of misunderstanding. Of marital disputes being blown out of proportion. He spoke of Ethan's devotion to the company. How my emotional state led to confusion. Classic. Predictable. But then, it was our turn. Anna stood. composed, razor sharp. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Exhibit after exhibit. Forged documents. Offshore accounts. Emails where Ethan outlined his plans in embarrassing detail. Ilya's sworn testimony. Voice recordings. The receipts Ethan never thought would surface. With every slide, every statement, I watched his bravado fade. His jaw clenched. His fingers twitched. Because facts don't flinch. And today, they were all aligned against him. The judge listened intently. Unmoved by theatrics. Focused on evidence. Exactly what we wanted. When Anna presented the forensic audit, Ethan's lawyer shifted tactics. They tried sympathy. Spoke of stress. Of momentary lapses in judgment. Of misguided attempts to secure the company's future. As if fraud could be rebranded as foresight. The judge wasn't impressed. Neither was I. The turning point came when Anna played the recording. Ethan's voice. Clear. Undeniable. Once it's all transferred, Laura won't even see it coming. The silence in that room was deafening. Not because of shock. Because of confirmation. He had convicted himself. When the judge delivered the ruling, I didn't feel triumph. I felt relief. Ethan's claims were dismissed. His countersuits thrown out. Full restitution ordered. An official investigation into his fraudulent activities initiated. He lost his share of the company. His assets frozen. His reputation officially tarnished. As the bailiff escorted him out, he looked at me. But not for sympathy. For acknowledgement. As if hoping I'd see the man he used to pretend to be. I didn't. I saw exactly who he'd chosen to become. When we stepped outside, the media swarmed. Questions. Cameras. Flashing lights. I said nothing. Because sometimes, silence says everything. Anna handled the statements. Calm. Professional. Today's verdict is a reminder that deceit, no matter how sophisticated, cannot withstand the truth. Simple. Perfect. As we drove away, I watched the city blur past. Not as a battlefield. As a clean slate. Because courtrooms don't heal you. They just confirm what you already knew. Ethan lost that day. But more importantly, I won something back. Not revenge. Not validation. Freedom. He had tried to erase me. But in doing so, he revealed me. To myself. To the world. And that was the true victory. He thought a courtroom would be his final weapon. But it became his mirror. Because truth needs no defense when lies unravel themselves. He lost his power. I found my freedom. And between the two, I know who walked away richer. After the courtroom lights dimmed and the headlines faded, the real story began. Mine. Not his downfall. My becoming. People expected a victory lap. Grand celebrations. Revenge parades. But power built on bitterness never lasts. I didn't want to be remembered for what I survived. I wanted to be remembered for what I built after. Sterling flourished. Not in a flashy, viral way. But steadily. Partnerships deepened. Teams grew stronger. Our reputation rebuilt on transparency and trust. The irony wasn't lost on me. The empire he tried to steal was now thriving precisely because he was gone. But this wasn't just business. This was personal evolution. Because somewhere between his betrayal and my defense, I rediscovered something he tried to erase. Myself. For so long, I'd been the woman behind the brand. The wife behind the success. Invisible, even in my own narrative. No more. I started speaking. Quiet fireside chats with young entrepreneurs. Mentorship circles for women told to know their place. Not to relive the betrayal. To rewrite the blueprint. Because one woman's silence can feed a system. But one woman's voice can crack it open. I wasn't a cautionary tale. I was a case study in reclamation. And that message resonated. One afternoon, as I sat by the office window, Tessa visited. She placed a small plaque on my desk. Engraved simply, "The best revenge is freedom." We laughed. Because it wasn't revenge anymore. It was release. Ethan faded from the public eye. No more grandstanding. No more schemes. Last I heard, he'd relocated. Small consulting gigs. Nothing headline-worthy. He had become what he feared most. Irrelevant. He reached out once. A short email. "I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry for everything." I didn't reply. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Because closure isn't something you get from an apology. It's something you give yourself the moment you stop needing it. The weight he left never belonged to me. It was his. Always was. I had simply been carrying it out of habit. The day I truly let go, it wasn't dramatic. No epiphanies. No cinematic monologues. I was in the office kitchen. Making tea. The world moved on. So did I. And that was freedom. My legacy was never about taking him down. It was about standing up. For myself. For the women watching. For the quiet builders told they weren't enough. They were watching. They always are. And now, they knew, you don't need to destroy them to win. You just need to stop letting them define your worth. Every time I walked through Sterling, I saw it. In the confidence of my team. In the innovations they brought forward. In the way no voice was too small to be heard. That was the victory. Revenge fades. Freedom sustains. And freedom tastes better than any fleeting triumph. Because he tried to steal my fortune. But I reclaimed my future. And in the end, that's worth more than anything he ever had. He thought revenge would be my endgame. But I chose freedom. Because power taken can be given back. But power built on knowing your worth is untouchable. Have you ever been underestimated, but kept building anyway? Drop a fire emoji in the comments if you know what real power feels like when it's yours. Don't forget to share this story with someone who needs to hear it today.